Hello and welcome back to the CACCIA Outdoors podcast. We are on location. We're out in Arizona filming these episodes. We're doing some mule deer and javelina hunting, so having fun. But today our guest is David Bertram. So a lot of you have asked us questions about Southern California hunting, questions about tips, tactics, and the truth is we've never hunted Southern California.
Yep.
We'd like to. Obviously, we'd love to hunt the whole
if
state.
we get an invite from our buddy one day.
All right. So David is from who we call Davey. So we'll call him Davey. Davey's from San Diego.
Yep.
And you've lived there
since I was 8 years old. So that's since 1998.
Okay, so a few months.
Yeah.
And you've hunted a lot in Southern California.
Yeah.
So tell us about so what zones are down there? We'll start with that.
Man, D16 is San Diego County zone. Then you got D12, D15, D11.
All kind of clumped together right now.
Yeah, they're all clumped together. Yep.
So I don't want you to give away your honey hole.
And basically, like Southern California is, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but I've always considered Southern California zones everything south of the Grapevine. So Los Angeles, Riverside, and south.
Okay, and you've hunted a lot of those areas?
I've only hunted San Diego County.
Okay.
Yep.
But you pretty much find success regularly year over year, right?
Yes. So I definitely do not claim to be the ultimate authority on this, but there's some principles that I've learned, and it's helped me to be successful every year that I apply those principles.
I think that the main thing that will help people that are interested in hunting that area is, I feel like where Clayton and I hunt predominantly, which is Northern California, whether it's the Sierra Nevadas or the coastal mountain range, it's so different from all of the topography and the geology down there. And did I say geology? Is geography? Geography. Both, I guess,
well,
right?
Geology too,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's so different from that area because we hunt a lot of, it's like oak savannas or pine forests, and there's nothing in between. And you guys have like a lot of like
chaparral, sage, big open broken country,
a lot of like breaks and stuff. So that's even if you've predominantly hunted in San Diego County, I think it applies. A lot of your experience will apply to that whole region because it's a lot of the same kind of terrain.
Yep.
So, how do you approach your preparation for the season, like scouting? Like I said, we've never hunted this specific area. So, I mean, first of all, do you see a lot of deer while you're out there?
Yes, and a lot. So if I went out for an evening, I would consider seeing over 5 deer, seeing a lot of deer. That's really good.
Yeah.
That's California
typical
standards,
public land, California.
Yeah. And if you see 10 deer or more, that's like
you're
incredible.
Hopping. Yeah, you're hopping up and down.
That's really good. That's like a big, especially if you see them all together, that's a good herd of deer.
So what would you say would be a good scouting technique, let's say in, because when does the season start? The archery and...
The archery starts in the beginning of September in D16.
Also, it's a little later than...
Yeah, it's later than Northern California. Okay. And then the rifle season starts in the middle of October, like I think it's the 3rd or 4th Saturday, and then goes for 30 days.
Oh,
so it goes from middle of October to the middle of November.
Okay.
Which is great. It's like right in the rut.
So when would you say would be the best time to scout with the conditions that will mirror how you'll be hunting?
Yeah, that's a good question. The best time to scout and the best method of scouting is actually doing the same thing you would be doing while you're hunting, and that is getting on high spots and just glassing. And my biggest goal when I go out, whether it's a month before season, I typically, and to answer your question, I typically won't go out and scout more than 2 months before season.
Right. We've found that same where we're at. Yeah. I think almost everywhere. If you scout too early, it's not really going to give you a lot of value. Yeah. Maybe area population in general, but other than that, the deer are going to be in totally different places. They're feeding on different stuff. So maybe some acorns drop somewhere, or maybe who knows what's
foliage
happening.
And water are going to change a lot over that hot period of time.
Yeah. Right.
So you say with glassing. So
for example, let me interrupt you there. In September, all of our oak trees start dropping acorns.
Okay.
And they will continue to drop acorns all the way through like early November. So and September through November is deer season. between bow and rifle, that's deer season. So if you scout a canyon in, let's just say June, and you don't see any deer sign in a canyon full of oak trees, well, literally, if you were to wait 2 more months, there could be a whole herd of deer that moved in to start eating those acorns.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay. So, I forgot what I was going to say.
So we talked about this earlier several times, and it's something that I think a lot of, especially newer hunters, but a lot of people sometimes that have been hunting for a long time, it surprises me that they don't kind of catch, is you were mentioning that when you first started out, you would go and just try to find some open meadow or grassland and wait for the deer to just walk out in the middle of the grass and eat the grass, and you can shoot them, right? So,
yeah. So my early concept of mule deer hunting, or just all deer hunting, was just to find a big meadow, sit on it at first light and last light, and wait for a buck to come out and hope that one came out. And yeah, that's what they'll do in the South.
How many came out?
I actually got lucky. My first buck was doing just that. I was like sitting on the edge of a meadow, and
unicorns do exist.
It was crazy. Like there was like 7 bucks that came out, like 10 does. 2 of the bucks were fighting. So, and there were 2 tiny little forkies, and so I was all excited. And I was 17 years old. It was my first buck. So I go running out into this meadow, and I got to like 80 yards of these bucks, and I'm getting ready to shoot one of these little forkies, and then something caught my eye out of my peripheral. So I look over, and there's like 15 deer, and I just see antlers everywhere mixed in with the does. So I just got on one and I shot it, and it was a nice forky. It was definitely a lot bigger than the 2 that were fighting. But anyways, that was the only time I got lucky on a meadow. But that was
So you heard it here first. Hunt meadows exclusively.
yeah. But yeah, that was my concept of hunting, and I would always complain like, man, San Diego just has horrible habitat for deer. We hardly have any meadows. All the meadows that are in San Diego County, the majority of them are on private land, or it's in a state park, so you can't hunt. And then over time, maybe just by reading and watching different videos of mule deer hunting in the West, I learned the principle of just getting on high points and glassing. And as I did that, I learned that you rarely ever see mule deer in meadows. I always see them in the middle of the thick stuff. So I'd get on a high point, and I'd be glassing down into a mountainside that had brush 8 feet and 10 feet tall. But because of my vantage point looking down into that brush, I started finding deer literally every time I went out. Every time I'd glass, I would find deer.
That I remember what I was going to say earlier. So that begs the question: is glassing, like, would you say that's the exclusive way to hunt that area?
Yes, absolutely. Southern California, 100%. It's all about glassing, and it's all about just finding the does. Don't worry about finding a buck. If you just find does, just stay on those does until a buck comes in.
So you were telling us earlier today about the different rut seasons. Tell us about that.
Yes, and this I learned from a seasoned Southern California hunter who's killed probably like 40 bucks, and he knows what he's talking about. But he said, in September, closer to the coast in D16, and this is for all Southern California, the closer to the coast you get, the does will go into heat in September, and then does that don't go into heat in September will go into heat in October, and then does that don't go into heat in October will do it in November and then December. And so there's actually 3. Did I just say 4?
September, October, November, December.
So it's October, November, December.
So not September.
Yeah, not September. It's October.
So the first rut would be rifle season.
Yeah.
Okay.
So literally,
awesome.
you'll see bucks with their necks all thick and chasing does in October, and then there'll be like a dry spell of like a week or 2, and you'll think, oh man, the rut's over. Here we are in the middle of November, the rut's over, and all of a sudden you'll see it again on a trail camera, or while you're glassing, you find another buck chasing a doe, and then just last week after Christmas, so I must have been like December 28th. I was working up in the mountains, and I watched a huge 3x3 after Christmas, rutting hard. I mean, his neck was thick. He was chasing a doe around, and so it just goes to prove they'll have multiple ruts, and it just all depends on what does will what time of those 3 months a doe goes into heat.
Yeah,
it's interesting that there's so many different. It never ceases to amaze me that deer do deer stuff.
Yeah.
Like you think you got them pegged and you figured out, oh, deer do this and this time and this moon phase and all, and then all of a sudden you'll come upon a deer that's doing something totally off the books, like the ones in the meadow that day, you know, and it's like, what are you guys doing? Didn't get the message that deer don't do this, you know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of one of those things that no matter where you hunt, I think that it's something we've learned the hard way several times is always be ready for anything. Like, you know what you're going to most likely see and you can come to expect, but a lot of times, like, just be ready for even the most wild circumstance where deer show up in a random spot, you know?
Yep.
So another question we want to ask is about the vegetation and habitat down there. What are you looking for when you're scouting or just even looking for deer and you're deer hunting? What kind of vegetation are you looking for and what kind of country are you looking for?
Yeah, so, and again, I've only hunted D16, which is the San Diego County, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of the vegetation is up in Riverside, Los Angeles, those areas, same vegetation. But anyways, the two main plants that I'm looking for is sumac and buckwheat. So I'm not going to look at a mountainside that's just covered in thick chaparral. You know, even if you're on a high vantage point and you're glassing a mountainside that's just thick chaparral, which is, it's called chaparral. It's just a bush that grows 10, 12, 15 feet tall.
Right.
It's just so dense.
Undergrowth, thick brush.
Whatever.
Yeah,
you can't really see into it. And I don't even think the deer really like it. So I don't spend any time scouting and glassing those kind of areas. I like to look for broken country, real steep country that has a mix of vegetation and a mix of openings in between these bushes of buckwheat, sumac, a little bit of sage, and so broken country that has a little more openings in it, you know.
Yeah.
And then,
well, because I mean, it also you want deer habitat. You need the feed to be there, but you also have to hunt the spot. So we've run into that when we've ever tried to hunt a zone in places that has those chaparral. Like, we'll have samish bushes just completely covering a whole mountain.
What'd you call it? Shamish?
Samish, yeah.
Oh, samish.
It's like, I don't know if it grows down there or not. It's like a thick, green, oily, gross plant. Burns crazy hot too. But I mean, the whole mountainside would be covered, and you literally would have to go on your hands and knees and crawl through.
Yeah.
And you can't hunt that stuff. So I understand what you're saying is the terrain has to be deer friendly and huntable, you know. But it needs those critical plant life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're saying find a place that has a mix of vegetation. That's what you want to target.
Yeah, I don't even care about trying to find big meadows. I just want to find mountainsides or a whole area of ridges that has a mix of that sumac and sage and buckwheat. The buckwheat grows really tall as well, but it's at the base near the ground, it's a lot more open. So up top it can be really thick, but down low there's actually it's really open, so the deer can run through it. They bed down in it, so it's like a forest to the mule deer.
So it's shelter, it's feed, it's shade.
And the same with the sumac. The deer love to eat the leaves of a sumac, and they'll bed under it. So it's a really, when I see a mountainside or a canyon full of sumac, oh man, almost guarantee it. There's going to be deer in there.
Up where we hunt, a couple of, I'd say the top two or three feed sources are like mountain whitethorn, gooseberry, then your broadleaf stuff. What would you say would be the top 2 or 3 food sources? I mean, you mentioned the acorns, but what else?
But yeah, the acorns from the oak trees, that's huge. I mean, that's like potato chips to a deer. They love that stuff. Then the next, in my opinion, is the sumac.
Okay.
I mean, every time I glass in September, October, November, and that's the other thing, the sumac keep their leaves year round. So it's a constant food source. And every time I've glassed, I think pretty much every time I see the deer feeding on sumac leaves. So that would be, sumac leaves, and acorns are huge. And then I see them feeding on young buckwheat.
Okay.
So are any of those, and you may not know exactly, but are any of those feed sources time dependent season dependent? Because I know the acorns are, but that's one of the things we've talked about in the past is if you go and you're going to scout a spot and you go too early, the feed sources can change, right? So
the buckwheat and the sumac is year round. The acorns fall in September. They start falling in September, and they'll fall basically through the end of October, beginning of November. But a lot of acorns fall. So even though the tree might be done dropping the acorns, the deer will still be feeding maybe through the end of November or beginning of December. And then by then, the squirrels, the woodpeckers, the deer, the raccoons have like cleared up the floor.
Demolished it.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
So make sure you're keeping an eye on when you're scouting and what food sources will be available when you're actually going to go hunt.
That's right. Yeah. If you go scout a canyon that's full of oak trees and it's like a beautiful forest of oak trees with, really clear ground under the oak trees, and it just looks like the perfect park to see a herd of deer. If you're in there in the month of June, you might not see a single deer track. But then if you wait until the end of September and you put cameras in there or get up high and glass down into that area, you might see a whole herd of deer in there that, they move in after the acorns drop. Not all the time. Sometimes they're there even before the acorns drop. But for sure, if you're in a canyon with oak trees and you don't see any deer sign and you're there before September, check again after September, and you might see deer that moved in.
So what about moisture?
Water sources and whatnot. Yeah.
Tell us about water.
I don't really hunt water.
Okay.
I'm just looking for the brush or the vegetation that I mentioned, and just good vantage points where I can see a lot of country with that vegetation. And I don't even look at Onyx or anything trying to find springs or water holes, because there's really not a lot of it in Southern California. So I think, I know there's definitely water that seeps out in some of these deep canyons, but it would be just a lot of hard work to just go through each ravine that's full of poison oak and stuff and right, thick, trying to find a little water hole. One year at the end of like a 5-year drought, I got lucky and I found in a really deep canyon in thick oak trees where there was poison oak and wild cucumber. I don't know if you guys have heard of that.
Yeah, thick and nasty.
Yeah, wild cucumber grows like all over the oak trees and it'll actually kill the oak trees. But anyways, found an old timer said that there was a water hole down there. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. Well, anyways, I had time. And so one day I hiked all the way down to this really deep, nasty canyon. And sure enough, there was an area, I'm not even kidding. It was probably this big. And water was seeping out of the sand. And there were deer tracks all around it, coyote tracks, everything. So I put up a tree stand there. And I sat there for 40 hours in that tree stand. And I had every single day, there was like 4 cubbies of quail that would come in, coyotes would come in. And, but I had a trail camera, so I knew the deer were going in there. And so I sat there for 40 hours and finally 2 bucks came in and I killed one of the bucks.
Wait, 40 hours straight?
No, not 40 hours straight, but 40 hours over the season.
Aggregate time.
Yeah.
Okay. I was
yeah.
gonna say,
like,
that's your machine if you're doing that.
No.
Sitting there just.
Yeah, but I sat in the tree stand for 40 hours and like it would be 3 hours here, 4 hours there, a full day here, that kind of thing.
Wow.
But yeah, I was motivated to do it because I knew the animals were there, and it was just a nice, beautiful,
makes sense,
a quiet little area. But that's the only time I've ever hunted water, and I just don't even pay attention to that.
Well, I think in an area like that also, if you have, because a lot of those areas, there's stuff for deer to hide under, but if you get a vantage, it's not like hunting a tall old growth pine forest where you can just look and you're not going to see nothing but the tops of trees. There you can actually glass down and see animals. Yeah. So if you can sit on a vantage in a morning or an evening and actually see if there's animals there or not, then you don't really need to count on a water source, because it doesn't matter if there's water or not if the animals are there.
Right. Yeah. And even if the water's not marked on Onyx or whatever, I'm pretty sure that almost every single deep canyon all through Southern California has water seeping out somewhere. And there has to be, because there's deer in pretty much every canyon. So, I don't worry about the water. I just find that good vegetation and get a high vantage point and just glass.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you and your brother run an interesting business, and you have kind of an inside perspective on predation. So that was our next question is, what do you tell us about the predation that you run into both as a hunter and with your business?
Yeah, so me and my brother own a pest control business, and one division of that is nuisance wildlife. And primarily we're just dealing with varmints in the city. So we're talking raccoons, skunks, possums. We'll do bat eviction from big structures, beehives and stuff like that. And we'll also remove nuisance coyotes that are attacking people's pets, or if there's like a pack of coyotes that's in an HOA and just making members of the HOA nervous, we'll go in there and remove them. And speaking of coyotes, yeah, we had a HOA call us because coyotes were getting so bold. They were actually grabbing people's dogs while they were walking them down the street on a leash.
Goodness.
Wow.
And it actually got media coverage, so it became really bad PR for this HOA, and so they called us, and it was a liability, So HOA called us, and this is again like 7 or 8 years ago, and we used a trap at the time called a collarum trap, which is now illegal to use in California. But it's a non-lethal trap. It's essentially a leash and a collar, and so animal control uses it to catch dogs. And basically, the leash and collar is buried in the ground, and when the coyote grabs the bait, there's a spring that launches the collar over the coyote's head, and then the coyote is just restrained and held there. And there's some comfort. There's like a comfort spring on the leash, so that when the coyote tugs on the leash, it doesn't hurt its neck.
Choking it to death.
Yeah, it's like a humane deal. So, anyways, that's the trap we used, and we removed about 40 coyotes within like 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
From this HOA, and we're talking, it's an area. It's about 5,000 acres total, and this is almost in the heart of San Diego, but there was green belts around this HOA. And so, we did a good job. We removed the coyotes, and we had security cameras on each trap for liability reasons, just in case kids went out there and stuff and messed with the traps. So, and on those cameras, like when we first started the contract, we never saw deer. Or I take that back. We would see a couple deer here and there on our cameras as we were removing the pack of coyotes. And then we quit catching coyotes, quit seeing the coyotes on our cameras because we removed the whole pack. And occasionally we would catch a coyote that moved in. But immediately following that removal of the whole pack, over the next 2 and 3 years, the photos of deer we were seeing just shot through the roof. We were like seeing a bunch of pictures of fawns and all that stuff. And I personally believe it was directly attributed to removing all those coyotes. The coyotes may not remove a lot of adult deer, but man, when you have
fawn killers,
when you have a canyon that's just loaded with coyotes, they're gonna get lucky and find the fawns, no matter how well the fawns hide.
Yeah.
So the HOA, they were really excited about that, and then the deer started eating all the roses and stuff. But
we should have said, we'll take the deer out too.
We didn't do anything about the deer, but it was still super cool to see all of that on the cameras.
Yeah, that's neat. And that's, predation is one of the biggest hot button talking points for hunters, I think, especially in California, because, we have some notorious mismanagement going on. But, I think that is something that I always get frustrated about is people don't really know exactly what's going on with predation. And there's a biologist, and I had a conversation about this one time, and she was telling me that one of the big problems with predation is that it's the bear mountain lion combination. What happens is the mountain lions are much more proficient killers, so they'll go and they'll kill these deer, and that's their dinner for like a couple weeks or whatever. So they go and they pull the thing up in the tree or hide it or whatever, and then the bears come and they steal the kill. And so now the mountain lion's got to go kill another deer, and because they're better at it, it's easier for them. They can kill more deer. So now you got mountain lions that are killing like 3, 4, 5 times as many deer as they need to eat.
That's crazy.
And the bear are eating them all.
And the bear population is only going to get worse now.
Yeah, it's exploding because it's like a symbiotic relationship. Unfortunate for the mountain lion and for the deer.
Wow.
So it's a problem. Every time we go deer hunting, I mean, we kill bears every deer season. We fill our tags every deer season. You should too. We've got a big bear problem in California.
And every year we go, we see more bears.
More bears every single year.
That's crazy. We don't have any bears in San Diego County.
Yeah. It's probably not conducive weather for bears down there.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wouldn't mind if we had bears.
Yeah, bears are fun to hunt.
Yeah.
I didn't like bear hunting too much until I was filming, and we called a bear in. And first bear Clayton ever shot with his bow. We called it in. It was like 30 yards. He just came on a string, and Clayton just smoked it, and it let out a big old roar and ran down. And I didn't push record on the camera, and never lived that one down. But it was like a riveting experience.
It's the rain.
It's the rain.
Oh, it's raining outside.
Yeah. So
oh my goodness.
we're on location. It is it's pouring right now in Arizona. So
Yeah.
if you can hear
for
that, in the
only rain
background.
of the year, we happen to be here for it.
Yeah,
Great.
so
Right.
But yeah, predation is a big topic,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
so but we're not allowed to hunt mountain lions in California. Right. What's the? I know it's something people are really afraid of, especially new hunters and people that aren't really familiar with hunting, is going out in the field deer hunting and a mountain lion's going to attack me. What's your experience? Because I know there's a lot more lions down there than there is.
Yeah, you know what? You do not have to be afraid of lions. Me and my buddies, we've spent so many hours in the field hiking back for hours after dark, even solo, like hiking back in the dark solo, and we've never had an issue with lions. And there's a lot of lions down there. And like we were talking about this before, if I'm scouting a new area, or even if I'm going back to an area I've hunted in the past, in years past, and I see lion tracks, I don't get nervous. I'm not like, oh man, a lion's in here, he's going to push out the deer. No. If a lion's there, it's because there's deer there. So when I see a lion, I'm like, let's go. The deer are here. Let's keep hunting.
Yeah.
But no, I don't get nervous at all. When I first hunted, oh yeah, when I'd be hiking back to the truck or something and it was dark, I'd be like looking over my shoulder.
Right.
It was nerve-wracking.
I think that's something that wears off on most hunters too. The more you spend time in the backcountry or just hiking in remote land areas, you get used to it.
And a lot of times I'll actually turn on a podcast and put it on speaker while I'm hiking out.
Yeah.
On purpose, just so a lion wouldn't accidentally mistake me for a deer.
Right. They would know some kind of weird smell, weird sound.
It's crazy with lions. All the years I've spent
Definitely
in the
a weird
field.
smell, right?
After a day and butchering up a deer and everything.
Also days in the backcountry with no shower.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some funk going on there. But all the years I've spent hunting, all the time in the field, I've never seen a mountain lion in California. Not one time.
Yeah, you know what?
That's a trip.
It's a lot like being attacked by a shark, I think. Everyone's scared to death of getting attacked by a shark. They go in the water at the ocean and whatever. But really, there's so few people attacked by sharks. It's crazy.
Per capita,
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a scary thing to happen to you,
Right.
right? It's apex predator.
Right.
You can't do anything about it.
Now, there's no doubt lions see us when we hunt. I believe every single year there's a lion that watches me at least one of the days I go out. I mean, they're just curious. I mean, just like a house cat, But they're not like... A lion isn't set to just kill the first human he sees walking through the mountains.
Good thing, too, because you'd never see him coming.
No,
Yeah.
you wouldn't.
He'd just be gone. Yeah.
There wouldn't be very many hunters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a fun conversation. Last question. Do you know what the stats are in that? You said it's D16, right?
I know it's a very low success rate. Like, I believe it's under 10%.
And if you buy...
I want to say it's around like 6% success rate, maybe 5%. But don't quote me on that. It's very low.
So if you buy a D16 tag, do you get to hunt archery and rifle season? General
D16 allows you to hunt rifle between middle of October to the middle of November. And with that D16 tag, you can kill a buck with your rifle or your bow.
What about archery season?
The archery season is the A22 tag. So, and the A22 tag starts in the beginning, I think, of September and goes till the end of September. And then it reopens again in the 1st of December and goes through December 31st.
It's pretty unique.
So if you just get a general season tag, then you can either hunt with your bow or your rifle. But if you hunt with your bow, you're hunting with your bow and rifle season, essentially.
What did I say that again?
So if you get your general tag,
your D16,
right? D16 tag,
yeah,
you can hunt with. Obviously, if it's a rifle hunt, you can hunt with a bow if you want.
Yep,
but only. You're going to be at a big disadvantage because you're hunting with a bow during gun season, essentially.
Yeah, sure.
So the D16 tag is for rifle season.
That's
and
right.
the A22 tag is your archery tag for D16.
That's right. And the A22 tag is either sex, so you can kill a buck or a doe.
That's cool, and that's not very common in California.
Yeah.
Very rare, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, because our seasons up here, like if you're going to get a D3 through 5 or a B zone or something, the one tag counts for archery and rifle season consecutively. Or you can get an AO tag, which applies to anywhere pretty much, I think. And you can hunt the archery season of that unit. Well, not anywhere, but it applies to...
A lot of zones.
Yeah, a lot of zones.
A, B, a bunch of the
D's,
D zones.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so, I mean, in San Diego, there's a huge opportunity to... I mean, you can be hunting from beginning of September literally to the end of the year.
Which I think is cool, the timing. I don't know why our A-zone archery season starts in July. And it's like... 155 million degrees. And you're out hiking, trying not to die of heat exhaustion.
That's crazy.
July, man. Yeah,
so
like the middle.
They're still in
July.
velvet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big thing in San Diego. None of the bucks are in velvet. Yeah, so September 1st, our archery season comes along and all the velvet's gone.
See,
there's occasionally there's a buck that just doesn't feel a lot of testosterone and he's just never rubs off. So
yeah, where we're at, Northern California, we're kind of sick of shooting velvet bucks at this point because that's every archery season. That's all you get pretty much. Every once in a while you'll find a hardhorn buck running around if he's like early.
Wow.
But yeah, pretty much. I mean, we shoot velvet bucks every year, pretty much.
I would love to kill a velvet buck.
Yeah.
Even my rifle.
You don't even get the opportunity to do that in San Diego.
Even my rifle buck this year had some velvet left.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So
when's your rifle season?
It's usually the third Saturday of September is when it starts.
Wow. That's early.
Well, third or fourth?
Usually third. It's like 18, 19, 17, somewhere.
It depends on what zone you're hunting.
Yeah.
So D zones and B zone I think are the third Saturday of September. A zone's earlier. So
gotcha.
Yeah, you're hunting in the Inferno.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's kind of a bummer because the conditions are so rough. It's so hot. The deer are always just hunkered down, bedded. You're sweating your head off out there trying to run around. It's crazy.
So someone listening to this might think, man, why would I want to hunt California? But the harder something is, the more gratifying it is.
Yeah, the higher the reward.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I feel like if there's, and this is, some people are just going to, whoa on this one. But I feel like if you can become a successful California deer hunter, especially archery California deer hunter, you can pretty much be a successful
anywhere
hunter
in the country.
Anywhere.
That's right.
Because it is some of the toughest deer hunting.
Yep.
We've hunted all over the United States.
Yep.
And it is some
and
of the
we've
toughest.
Killed all over the United States.
Yep. Elk and deer and whatever.
Yeah. I could say
antelope.
without a shadow of a doubt, California's the hardest.
Yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Like that buck that I killed on the water hole when I spent 40 hours total in the tree stand. And that was 40 hours without seeing a lot of deer. Like those two bucks that came in finally after 40 hours were the first two bucks I saw.
And it wasn't 40 hours of
consecutive 40 hours.
Well, it wasn't 40 hours of you rode up to your tree stand in your e-bike and got out and climbed. It was hiking down a mountain into a ravine, and then then you got to hike out
and picking my way through poison oak to get to the tree, and but when I killed that buck, it was a super old buck. I mean, a Roman nose, white face, gray hair everywhere, scratches all over his face, just a big body.
That's cool. A mature buck is the coolest thing.
It was so gratifying. I mean, I probably felt more. It was just more gratifying than I mean. I've killed elk in Idaho, and it was just as gratifying as killing a big 6x6 bull.
Wow.
It was, and I think it was even more so because it was at home.
Yeah.
When you kill a buck at home in your home turf,
it's pretty cool.
And you win, it's just so neat.
It's like this is my spot.
And especially a mature buck. I mean, even if the genetics aren't there and everything, the just a mature old buck. I'd rather shoot an old regressed mature buck than a young big buck, just because you've accomplished something.
Yeah.
Like that Joker has
a long
seen
time.
Yep. He's survived the bears and the lions and the winters and everything.
At that point, I don't even care about how many points he has. Just to know that it's an old, just big buck. That's just so cool.
That's exciting.
Just mature.
Sure. Yeah. So hopefully tomorrow we all three shoot old big mature bucks.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
we're open.
It should be good.
Yep. We waited out the storm today, and tomorrow's our big day to go out and
first day with no rain.
Yep. Hopefully make it happen on some bucks here in Arizona. Shoot some javelina.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun video, or several videos hopefully. So.
Well, this has been fun.
Yeah.
I think hopefully it's informative for folks who want to get some more information.
Yeah, it's been informative for me. I mean, eventually, hopefully, we'll come down and hunt with you one time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And shoot some Southern California bucks. And you can come up and shoot a Northern California.
Sounds
and
good.
Velvet buck and a bear.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
So.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We will see you on the next episode.